Unfortunately for the socialist utopians in this town that support President Obama's spending plan, this last exit to utopia will remain a mystery, a relic of 1960s radicals. Now I yield back.
Time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans originally fought the creation of Medicare on the grounds that it was socialism. Apparently they haven't changed their minds about that as they try and terminate it and put seniors into the private insurance market. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman, to the gentlelady from Wisconsin, Ms. Moore.
Well, thank you so much.
The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Healthcare costs are a crisis in every American family. Every family is one surgery, one heart attack, one cancer diagnosis, one aging spouse away from financial ruin. But healthcare costs are also a crisis for business, both small and large. General Motors pays more for healthcare than for steel. And that is why the Affordable Care Act is needed, to bend the healthcare cost curve downward for all American healthcare consumers. Americans, including those who are consumers of Medicare and Medicaid, simply cannot afford the insurance and drug companies' runaway profits. These companies are reaping record-breaking profits. In 2009, while we were debating the bill, the nation's 5 largest for-profit health insurance companies saw a combined profit of $12.2 billion. And that's just for 5 companies. Their executives did well, too. The top execs at these companies pulled in almost $200 million in compensation. And at the same time, there were double-digit premium increases. So no matter where you get your health care, through Medicare, Medicaid, your employer's policy, wherever you get it, you can't afford that kind of rate increase year after year. And these rates are going up faster than any other part of the family budget. For many people, these costs are crowding out housing and other basic needs. In 2009, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies made over $60 billion in profits, and the profit margin in this industry is out of control. In 2007, profits ranged as high as 36%. The health care reform law also curbed some of these outrageous profits of the insurance and pharmaceutical industries. Yes, Medicare and Medicaid are large portions of our federal budget, but we can only rein in their costs if we fully implement the Affordable Care Act and tackle outrageous profiteering in health care, something that the Republican budget refuses to do. And with that, I yield back.
Time's expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to a member of the Budget Committee, a gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Young.
Gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the good people of Indiana want jobs, and you know what? We know how to get them. In Indiana, under Governor Mitch Daniels, and taxes modestly, and you know what? We've seen that leads to job growth. That's why Indiana, during these tough economic times, is a national leader in private sector job growth. The Budget Committee crafted a budget for our federal government that, like Indiana, spends less and keeps a lid on taxes. And the result is a plan that will help create 2.5 million private sector jobs by the end of this decade. Now, recent economic history isn't good to the big spenders. It shows that borrowing and spending trillions of dollars that we don't have doesn't create jobs. And jobs won't be created if we go along with the President's plan and seemingly the plan of sorts from the other side of the aisle to increase taxes. It's no great secret that the job creators in this country aren't hiring because unchecked spending, of course, leads to fears. It leads to fears that we're going to have to raise taxes in the future. It leads to fears of future inflation. And it, of course, leads to fears that interest rates are going to go up. By calling for a measure of spending discipline, as we do, we replace that fear with hope. Hope that we can restore conditions where private sector job creators can go out and put Americans back to work. That's what the people of southern Indiana want. Now, I mentioned Indiana a minute ago and the success we've had in creating those private sector jobs. We didn't do it all through our policies with respect to spending. Instead, we also looked at tax policy. We understood that it just didn't make sense to jack up taxes during a down economy. Instead, we kept them steady and we made our tax code more efficient, just as some of our neighboring states were doing the opposite. As a result, many businesses chose to move back to Indiana or to move to Indiana for the first time. We see the reverse trend nationally, unfortunately. Many businesses are leaving this great country or just not getting off the ground because of our job-destroying tax code and because of our punitive corporate tax rates. Mr. Speaker, we improve upon those previous policies. We learn from the errors of the past. I urge my colleagues to help us create jobs by voting yes on this House Republican budget.
Expired.
I yield back the balance of time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez.
Without objection, the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the heart of the Republicans' budget proposal is the thought, and I quote directly, "The number of makers diminishes and the number of takers grows. As a result, our government and economy and country will collapse." Forget about the impoverished view that this offers us, a vision of an America that can't be bothered or is unable to care for anyone who needs help. So let's have a discussion about who truly would be the taker and who truly would be the maker. People who manipulate an unfair tax system at the expense of millions of others? Makers, when you look at the Republican proposal. Corporations that don't invest in their own country, paying a lower tax rate than the profits, on their profits, than their employees would pay on a $40,000 salary. Those are makers under the Republican plan. Wall Street firms that ruined our financial system then asked working families to bail them out while they paid billions in bonuses. Those are also makers under the Republican plan. Yes, that's who the Republicans have identified as the makers, and it rewards them quite handsomely in their proposal. Their budget would perpetuate a taxation and employment system that has resulted in stagnant wages for workers and allows 5% of the wealthiest among us to enjoy 66% of all the wealth, while 80% of Americans share only less than 13%. Now, who would be the takers under this Republican plan? 9.4 million students working towards a college degree so they can get a good job and contribute to this economy, whose Pell Grants would be slashed. 218,000 low-income kids and families who will be removed from the Head Start, depriving them of a decent education. Again, takers under the Republican plan. 2,400 schools that serve 1 million low-income students across the country that would have to shut their doors. Takers under the Republican plan. Countless seniors who would no longer be able to remain in nursing homes because of cuts in Medicaid funding. Those are the takers. You decide, America, who are the takers and who are the makers. This is not a pathway to prosperity. It's a dead end. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Indiana, a member of the Budget Committee, Mr. Rokita.
Gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 2 minutes. Without objection.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where the President has failed to lead and be honest with us, we've had the courage to tell the truth about America's debt crisis, and we propose honest solutions required to fix it. You know, as a new member of Congress, I have already learned that the rules in Washington are stacked in favor of people who want to spend more money. And in contrast, in Indiana, we have a balanced budget, we have a AAA bond rating, and we have not raised taxes because we know taxes are not the problem. The problem is, Mr. Chair, our colleagues who continue to push for more government spending knowing that our debt is over $14 trillion and growing. And they haven't offered one alternative except to confiscate more of the people's money. They have tried to scare a lot of people, but this time, Mr. Chairman, I don't think the people are buying it. As you can see from this chart, our reliance on foreign countries to supply our reckless spending is growing dramatically over the past decades, to where nearly half of the debt we owe as a country, we owe to foreign countries, China being the best. In fact, Mr. Chairman, China can buy 3 Joint Strike Fighters every week for the money we pay them the interest for the money they owed us, and still have $50 million left over. Eventually, they and other countries are going to stop loaning us money or make us pay more to borrow. And guess what? As Treasury rates increase, rates on mortgages, credit cards, and car loans are soon going to follow. We are no longer kicking the can down the road. We're kicking it off a cliff. This budget addresses the real drivers of our debt: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. In 1970, these kinds of entitlements consumed 31% of our budget. Today, they're nearly 60%, and they continue to grow. And in just a few decades, when our kids are raising their children, literally every single dollar this government takes in revenue will go towards paying these entitlement programs. This budget makes the changes necessary to save these programs so that they're around for my kids and your grandchildren. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Members will refrain from engaging in personalities with the President. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the other things that China is doing is they're investing an awful lot of their resources in clean energy like solar power, like wind power, and the United States should be winning that battle and not our international competitors. And someone who knows a whole lot about that is the next speaker, the ranking member on natural resources, Mr. Markey of Massachusetts.
I thank the gentleman. You know, the Republicans are allowing nostalgia for a time before Medicare and Medicaid were ever on the books to replace the idealism that we need to have in order to deal with the real challenges of the future. But for the poor, the sick, the elderly, the disabled, the past is just a memory, and the future is their hard reality. And that's what this budget will be for those people, a hard reality. It takes no courage for the Republicans to stand here on the House floor and to call for an evisceration of the Medicare budget, of the Medicaid budget, and all the other programs for the poor, the sick, the elderly, the disabled in our country that they opposed ever having been put on the books in the first place. If you kick this budget in the heart, you'd break your toe. GOP used to stand for Grand Old Party. Now it stands for Get Old People. And that's what this budget is. It is a targeting of the poor, the sick, and the elderly in our country. Do they ask sacrifice from the defense budget? Do they ask for the defense budget to go down? No, it just keeps going up year after the year. Do they ask for sacrifice from the wealthy? No, they say tax breaks for the wealthy year after year after year. Who do they target? They target grandma. They don't even have the ability, the courage to stand up and say to the oil companies, who at $100 a barrel are making $100 billion in profits a year, that we're going to take away your tax breaks. No. Tax breaks for oil companies stay on the books. What do? They say to the clean energy industry, we're cutting your tax breaks by 70%, but we're leaving the tax breaks for the oil industry on the books, and we're slashing the programs for wind, for solar, for all those energy technologies that are the future.
Gentleman's yielded 30 seconds.
I thank the gentleman. That's your formula. It's a formula of the past. It's a formula for the nostalgic amongst the Republicans that wish we could go back to a time before Medicare and Medicaid and wind and solar and new energy technologies taking us on to a future. But let me tell you something. 50% of the people who are in nursing homes in our country have Alzheimer's. And they are on Medicaid. That's how we pay for the bills. You people slashed the budget for those people in nursing homes with Alzheimer's. That's 50%. That's grandma, ladies and gentlemen. And you don't touch the wealthy. You don't touch the Defense Department. This budget is so cruel that if you kicked it in the heart, it would break your toe.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, I yield myself 1 minute to respond to the warm comments from my friend from Massachusetts, the even-handed comments. You know what's really cruel, Mr. Chairman, is if we give our children a lower living standard. You know what's really cruel? If we give our children a debt-ridden nation. If we give our children a debt that they can't afford. And you know what's really cruel? Is if we don't save Medicare. if we don't keep the promises to our current seniors like we do in this budget, so that all these programs they've organized their lives around, which are going bankrupt, are preserved. Medicare goes bankrupt in 9 years. We're preserving it for current seniors. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New Hampshire, Mr. Ginta.
The gentleman from New Hampshire is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today to speak in favor of the path to prosperity. Our budget offers more than a spending blueprint for the next fiscal year and beyond. It's truly a job creator. The path to prosperity provides a framework for creating nearly 1 million jobs, new private sector jobs, next year alone. How does it do this? It doesn't involve advanced economic theory, just basic math. When you lower taxes, you put more money into people's hands. They spend it and it circulates, making businesses prosper and allowing them to hire new employees. It's just that simple. When I think of the opportunities that the path to prosperity will create, I think of countless small businesses and small business owners who will benefit from this plan in my state. Small businesses are the backbone of New Hampshire's economy, much like they are across our great nation. I think of people like Craig Leonard, who owns Bonsai Craftsman in Londonderry, New Hampshire. He remodels houses and kitchens. With the ongoing fiscal uncertainty, people are keeping their wallets closed because nobody knows what the next fiscal year will bring. Craig recently had to lay off 3 employees and barely has enough work to keep himself busy. Without the confidence that can come from passing the path to prosperity, there's no telling when his business will return to prosperity itself and when he can dare to hire again. I think of people like Charlie and Laura Morgan. They own a storage company in Manchester, New Hampshire. They've lost tenants in this down economy, causing them to reduce the rents that they charge. This is simply keeping them from hiring additional employees and creating greater opportunities for our fellow Granite Staters. The path to prosperity provides confidence by charting a responsible course so that creditors can loan with confidence and people can borrow money knowing that they'll be able to repay it. The example of hard-pressed small business owners I cited are located just in New Hampshire, but all over the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Clark.
Gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to talk on behalf of the people that I represent in Michigan. Many of them have lost their jobs, and when they become seniors, they're likely going to have to survive on a fixed income. And if they get Medicare on a voucher that won't fully cover the cost of their health services, they're going to have to pay for that out of pocket. You know what, folks on a fixed income, they don't have the money to pay for these services out of the pocket. They'll likely end up bankrupt. And the other issue is this. A lot of the folks that I represent, they've got multiple health conditions. Heart disease, diabetes, arthritis. They all go to different doctors, and very few of them actually talk to each other, their providers, that is, nor do they coordinate with hospitals and other long-term health care providers. All of these services, the Medicare providers, these services will be coordinated under our new Affordable Care Act. That's why we need those provisions in place to better coordinate health care. So I urge you right now, let's table putting Medicare on the voucher. Let's keep our Affordable Care Act. That's the best way our seniors on fixed income can get the best health care possible. Thank you.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Gingrey.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the chairman of the Budget Committee for yielding to me. I was listening to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and the ranking member of the Budget Committee, our friend from Maryland, talked about the fact that, according to his poster, that the Bush tax cuts in the years 2000 and 2006 cost the loss of an untold number of jobs. Mr. Chairman, I have my own statistics which basically show that during that period of time we had an increased revenue, despite those tax cuts, an increased revenue of something like $700 billion. Now, I don't know, I'll check my facts with his facts later on, Mr. Chairman, but how in the world could you produce $700 billion of additional revenue when you lose jobs? It's not possible. And the fact is that those tax cuts created a broader base, albeit at a lower rate, and it generated more revenue. And that's exactly what the chairman of the Budget Committee is talking about in his path to prosperity. Another one of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle stood up and said that according to this budget plan, at least thank God we have one, the Democrats couldn't produce one last year because of their fear of the political consequences. But she said that under this budget plan that Medicare as we know it by the year 2022 will disappear. Well, how is that possible when by that time there'll probably be 75 million people on Medicare as we know it, before we will go to this premium support plan that Chairman Ryan has proposed. And as our friends on the other side keep saying, well, you know, you keep giving breaks to the rich, tax breaks to the rich. Well, according to this plan, the people who are in the top 2% of income will only get 30% of the premium support of an average of $8,000 a year. The people in the top 8% would get 50%. So you keep wanting to beat on the producers in society that create the jobs. Support this plan. It's a great budget, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would remind my friend Mr. Gingrey that when Mr. Bush became president, he inherited a $5.6 trillion surplus. By the end of the 8 years, it was gone. Now, with respect to tax rates and jobs, what this chart shows is when the highest income earners in the country were paying the top rate during the Bush administration, you actually were paying the lower rate. In the Bush administration, you lost jobs versus during the Clinton administration, at the higher rate, 20 million jobs were created. Now, the point is not that higher tax rates increase jobs. The point is that small differences in the top tax rates are not the main drivers of our economy. They are not the main engines of job growth. The figures tell the story. Trying to tell another story is just anti-historical. The reality is that the numbers show that during the Clinton administration we had very strong growth. During the Bush years we ended up losing over 600,000 jobs. So let's at least get our history straight, and with that I yield 1.5 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Capps.
Gentlelady from California is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you for yielding, and Mr. Chairman, I rise in strong opposition to the Republicans' misguided budget and attack on Medicare. The issue is not whether we reduce the deficit, but how we do it. Simply put, the Republican plan uses our deficit as an excuse to end Medicare as we know it. Medicare is a cornerstone of the American dream, a promise that health care will always be there for our seniors and our permanently disabled citizens. But the Republican budget takes away that guarantee. And what does it give our future seniors in return? No guarantee of coverage, a real chance of being denied insurance due to pre-existing conditions, and around $6,000 a year in additional out-of-pocket costs, as well as the knowledge that the insurance companies will be well taken care of while they are struggling to get by on their fixed income. And not one aspect of the plan will do anything to reduce the cost of care. It just passes the buck. This is not a plan for our future. It's a recipe for disaster for our seniors. 45 years ago, when seniors were the most uninsured group in our country, we made a promise that health care for seniors would be guaranteed. The Republican voucher proposal breaks that promise. I urge a no vote on the Republican budget proposal. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, I'll yield myself 2 minutes. I've heard a lot of debate today about how we're slashing taxes, slashing revenues for the rich and for everybody else, and bad oil companies and things like that. Let me just show you a little chart. Under our budget, revenues rise. Revenues go up over $12 trillion. So revenues still increase. Even keeping the tax code where we are today, revenues increase. Now, the President's plan says he wants to raise them another $1.5 trillion. The gentleman from Maryland's plan wants to raise them another $1.7 trillion. But let's not kid ourselves. Revenues, even under our plan, continue to increase. Now, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. The green line is the revenue line. The red line is the spending line. Revenues are stable, increasing. Spending is on a tear, Mr. Chairman. Spending is growing at an unsustainable rate. We can't keep spending money we don't have. If we keep doing this, we're going to have a debt crisis. People are going to get hurt. Interest rates will go up. We will have to cut indiscriminately across the board at the time it happens. We want to avoid that. I yield myself one more minute to say, Mr. Chairman, let's talk about the Bush tax cuts, or what happened. Let's talk about the distribution of the tax burden. In 2001, the top 1% of earners paid 34% of the tax burden. Now they pay 38%. Higher tax burden. Top 5% in 2001 paid 53% of the taxes. Today, the top 5% pay 59% of the taxes. So on and so forth. We don't have a revenue problem, a tax problem. We have a spending problem. But here's the real problem. If we don't get our situation under control, we really go in the hole. In 2009, the General Accountability Office was telling us our fiscal gap, the unfunded promises we're making to current Americans, was $62.9 trillion. That means, to yield myself one more minute to explain, Mr. Chairman, that means we would have had to take $62.9 trillion, set it aside, invest it at Treasury rates, just so government can keep the promises it's now making to everybody in America. In 2009, we owed more than we are worth as total households in America. Last year, 2010, that fiscal gap grew to $76.4 trillion. Now, $99.4 trillion. We are digging our hole more than $10 trillion a year by kicking the can down the road. Every year we fail to fix this problem, we are submitting our children to a worse future, a diminished country. So the sooner we get our act together, the sooner we fix this problem, the better off we're going to be. If we keep ignoring this, if we keep spending on the path we are on, this fiscal gap, the pile of empty promises that politicians from both parties have been making to Americans, gets that much higher. We have about $100 trillion of empty promises Washington is making to Americans. It is time we tell people the truth. It is time we get government to live within its means. And it is time we get Washington to honor its promises, fix these programs, get spending under control, and give our children a debt-free nation.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman is absolutely right. We need to come up with a plan that puts the country on a predictable, steady course of deficit reduction. And we need to do it in a balanced way. The chart the chairman showed about revenues presumed that we wouldn't have certain changes in the revenue. For example, that we wouldn't say to the wealthiest, we want you to pay the same rates you were paying during the Clinton administration when the economy was roaring and jobs were being created. There's a reason the Bipartisan Fiscal Commission called the Republican plan unbalanced. And this is what it is. Under the Commission plan, they have a balance of spending cuts and revenue increases. For example, they say the folks at the top, they should be paying a little more. In fact, $2.5 trillion more over the next 10 years than the Republican plan. And because they don't do what the Commission recommended, they have to cut into Medicaid, which will hurt. It will hurt seniors in nursing homes, disabled individuals, poor kids, everyone who depends on that already stretched program. They have to terminate Medicare. So those are choices that we are making. They have made a one-sided, lopsided choice. And with that, I yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Ellison.
The gentleman from Minnesota is recognized for a minute and a half.
Yeah, bring it up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we are in a debate of generational proportions. The promises that were made during 1960s and before that and even after that about expanding our country, making it a greater country that widened its embrace, are now being abdicated. We're seeing a budget offered by our budget chairman that says to our seniors who have cut a path for all of us younger people that, you know what, we can't be there for you anymore. We're seeing a budget where we say to our students who are the intellectual drivers of our economy, we cannot be there for you anymore. As a matter of fact, two-thirds of this budget, two-thirds of the cuts are from low-income programs that serve people who are making it, hardworking Americans trying to make it every single day, but that's where the cuts come from. The question on the table is, what's the proper role of government? We believe the proper role of government is to look after our seniors. They believe Grandma has to figure out what she's going to do. We believe that young people have to have an opportunity, and things like the Pell Grant are going to help them and help us. They believe if you're smart enough to go to college, you should pay for it by yourself or maybe get a high-cost loan to do that. We have a different vision of America. As a matter of fact, we have a vision that the people who are well-to-do and the corporations who have done so well should help out more. We believe in equity and a shared burden. 30 seconds.
Another 15 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for 15 more seconds.
And a shared burden. In fact, the big five oil companies have received profits that are enormous when you look at these on this chart. The gentleman keeps talking about tax reform. I'd love to know, what corporate loopholes are you going to close? Are you going to close these big oil subsidies or not? And I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Kingston.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Let me say this. I want to be the first one to say we do want to close the tax loopholes for big oils. In fact, for the 4 years that the Democrats were in charge, we're not sure why they did not take it on. We are ready to take it on after this 4-year negligence on it. Think about this, though, Mr. Speaker. For every dollar we spend, 40 cents is borrowed. Now, if that had happened or was happening in your family, you would bring everybody to the kitchen table and you would say, look, we've got to make some changes here. We can't continue to spend money the way we're doing. Today, the national debt is 90% of the GDP. Spending is approaching 24% of the GDP. That's the historic high. We can't get to a balanced budget with a spending gap that high above revenues, and yet that's what we're doing. That's why the Republican budget, the Ryan budget, not just reduces spending by $4 trillion, but changes the trajectory of spending. Because unless we change the pattern and we make some choices for the next generation, important programs like Social Security, like Medicaid, like Medicare will not be there. Too often we hear from the liberals in Washington, D.C., the scare taxes. Well, Republicans hate seniors. They hate clean air. They hate education. And that's what we're seeing here tonight. In fact, yesterday the President tried to claim a mulligan on his budget. He actually introduced the budget in February and did not bring in one recommendation of his own Deficit Reduction Commission. Even though I've seen a chart on the floor tonight about it, it sounds great, but it's not in the President's budget because it wasn't presented. We think it might be a good idea to use some of the recommendations of the Deficit Reduction Commission, and that's what the Ryan budget does. But more importantly, it doesn't do anything to the important entitlement programs for anybody over the age of 55. Medicare will be there for them as it is today. But for younger people, it is not going to be there because it is going broke. That's why we need to make some changes. And giving them a subsidy to help them have more choices in Medicare is the way to save the program. And that's just one of the many aspects of the Ryan budget, and it's well worth supporting.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was pleased to hear my friend is interested in getting rid of the subsidies for big oil. We can do it tonight or tomorrow. All you got to do is vote for the Democratic alternative. And by the way, you can at the same time get rid of the tax breaks that reward companies for shipping American jobs overseas. We don't have to study about it. We don't have to send it to the Ways and Means Committee. We can instruct them right tomorrow, tonight, and we'll get it done if you vote for the Democratic alternative. With that, I yield 1.5 minutes to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Engel.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
I thank you. I thank the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, as Ronald Reagan used to say, there you go again. My Republican friends want to repeal the 20th century. They want to use the budget deficit to kill and destroy every program they've hated all these years, including Medicare and Medicaid. This budget would roll back 50 years of progress on Medicare and Medicaid and destroy these two programs, which are two of the most important social programs of the past century. It's unconscionable that we would take an axe of these programs to pay for tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. This budget shifts the burden from the wealthiest Americans and puts the burden on the poor and middle class. I understand that my Republican colleagues want to protect their rich friends, but on the Democratic side of the aisle, we care about working people, the middle class, poor people, seniors, and children. The Republicans last year promised they'd focus on two things if they got the majority: jobs and spending. But all we've seen is repeated attacks on the middle class and lower-income people. We haven't seen a single jobs bill, and their idea of cutting spending is to kill Medicare and Medicaid. Instead of passing this budget, we would be more likely to create jobs by waving a magic wand and saying abracadabra. In this time of divided government, the American people want us to come together and compromise. But all the legislation we're seeing from the other side is extreme. We need to come together. We do have difficulty. We don't want our children to have a diminished standard of living, but this is not the way to do it, to try to balance the budget on the backs of poor people, on seniors, on children. We need to have a fair and balanced budget. I urge a no vote.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
And Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to a distinguished member of the Rules and Budget Committee, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Woodall.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 2 minutes.
I'll tell you, we see a lot of shrill things here on the House floor. I want to have a slightly different voice. I just want to tell you how proud I am to be here. How proud I am to be here, because as the gentleman who previously spoke said very accurately, I ran on two things. I ran on cutting spending, and I ran on creating jobs. And tonight, because of the hard work of my chairman on the Budget Committee, my colleagues on the Budget Committee, I get a vote tomorrow to do just that. Just that. I've been here 100 days, and I get a vote to change the direction of this country from driving us off the edge of the cliff to restoring the freedom and economic success that we're known for the world around. 100 days, and I get to make that choice. Now, I'm thrilled, in the spirit of openness, that we have some alternatives. If you want to raise taxes, you're going to have budgets that get to do that. But if you want to close $2.9 trillion in tax expenditures, in loopholes, in lobbyist-funded giveaways, you've got one budget to choose from, and that's the Ryan budget. We go after those items that for whatever reason folks hadn't gone after in years past. We do those things that for whatever reason people couldn't find the courage to do in years past. Vote after vote after vote, I presume people had to vote on things they didn't like to vote on. They didn't want to run up spending. They didn't want to increase the debt limit. They didn't want to do those things, but they had to do it. Folks, tonight, I'm here to talk about something I want to do. I cannot wait to come to this floor tomorrow and cast a vote for my children, for America's grandchildren, for the future of this land, and that's a vote in favor of the Ryan budget. I am grateful to my colleagues for giving me that opportunity. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I welcome our friend Mr. Woodall, and I just say that we agree on one thing, that this budget does pose a fundamental choice, and that's what we're here to debate about. And we believe that it's just wrong to be providing another round of big tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans when you're ending the Medicare guarantee, when you're cutting investments in kids' education. Those are choices that we shouldn't be making. And we are going to present a Democratic alternative that we think provides a balanced approach. And with that, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Rangel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
I'm so glad you picked me at this time, because I want to join the previous speaker in saying that the atmosphere and the attitude here is just too shrill. We we should really, if we're dealing with the lives and the futures of the generations to follow, it should be in a different way. We should not just be fighting with each other. And so I'm making an appeal to ministers and priests and rabbis and imams to try to figure out as we go into this holy holidays whether or not the screaming is going to help or whether or not we're going to find ourselves with the lesser among us. I don't know the whole story, but it runs something like, I was hungry, you didn't give me anything to eat. I was thirsty, you didn't give me anything. I was sick, you didn't visit. Well, it sounds like the answer that's going to be given, well, I told the state to take care of you. I'm sorry they didn't. Or don't you remember, I'm the guy that gave you a voucher. Or I pulled myself up by my own bootstraps. Why can't you do it without a scholarship? No, I think not. This great nation was built to believe in God we trust. And it just seems to me when you're talking about the lives of our mothers and our grandmothers and the future of our children, that all of the things we hoped and dreamed about, it's not going to be shattered by a political budget that's been put together by the majority. It's going to be, if it's not stopped here, it's going to be stopped in the Senate or stopped in the White House. But I hope those that are listening, that are involved in providing spiritual care, that recognize how important health care is for our sick and our poor, why don't you just write your congressperson and share with us whether or not you think that we have an obligation to protect the wealthy among us rather than the lesser of our brothers and sisters. We'll be going home for a couple of weeks during these Easter holidays, and I do hope that all of us try to find out which side are we on, the rich or the lesser among us.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Pierce.
The gentleman from New Mexico is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate Chairman Ryan bringing this issue to the floor. Now, basically, the entire discussion that we're having in Washington right now centers around two figures. We spend 3.5 trillion, and we bring in 2.2 trillion in revenues to the government from taxes. Now, it's the bringing together of those numbers that's the difference of opinion here in Washington. I listened to the President's speech yesterday. I read the text of his speech, did not get a chance to listen. And he says that we can close that gap by taxing the millionaires and billionaires. And it sounds so fluid, it comes off so easy. But I will tell you that it's a process that many nations have followed before. Tax the millionaires. I don't know what Bill Sweat in Artesia's worth, but he tells me to create a job costs $340,000 to buy a new bulldozer, and he needs a pickup truck. So he needs $400,000 in the bank to create a job. Now, our friends on the other side of the aisle in the President's speech said we need to be taxing that money away from him. Nancy Pelosi said a couple of years ago we need to tax the profits of the corporations and spend them. Well, what you do is you take away Mr. Sweat's $400,000 and he doesn't get a new bulldozer and we don't get a job. So what we have here is this differential, $1.3 trillion in deficit on these top-line figures. That's what we're accruing. Then that goes into our debt barrel. $15 trillion is what we have over the life of our country from George Washington till today. Approximately $15 trillion, and we're bringing in 2.2. Now, if we begin to give the tax increases that the President says, we're actually going to squeeze down the 2.2 because companies will not be hiring people. For instance, off the shore of Louisiana, we're now choking off those jobs. And so every job off Louisiana that the government kills takes one person from paying taxes and puts them up here receiving welfare, unemployment, and food stamps. Economic growth is the only thing that can cure this nation's economic problems. The Ryan budget does that. The President's budget does not do it. Let's support the Ryan budget, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to show us this chart again because I just need to remind the body that during the Clinton administration, when we had the folks at the very top paying a little bit higher rate, 20 million jobs were created. When that rate was dropped for the high-income earners at the beginning of the Bush administration, not only did it contribute to deficits going up, but at the end of that period, over 653,000 jobs were lost. Now, the point isn't again, that by changing the tax rate, that was the driver. The point is that small differences in tax rates are not the main engines of economic opportunity, and we need to make choices here. Again, they choose to provide tax breaks to the folks at the very top and the Medicare guarantee. For somebody who's been a champion of Medicare, Medicaid, and a whole number of other issues important to seniors and Americans, Ms. Schakowsky of Illinois. 2 minutes.
Woman from Illinois, Ms. Schakowsky, is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. The Republicans are trying to claim the mantle of fiscal responsibility today. It's just ridiculous. They are the party responsible for a decade of fiscal recklessness with 2 unpaid-for wars, 2 unpaid-for tax cuts, and a blind eye to Wall Street, leading to a disastrous recession. And as the President said yesterday, quote, "There's nothing serious about a plan that claims to reduce the deficit by spending $1 trillion on tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires." This chart illustrates that from 1979 to 2005, the bottom 20% of households saw their incomes increase by a grand total of $200. Over the same period, the top 0.1%, here in the red, saw income growth of nearly $6 million each year. There's nothing courageous about a plan that would protect the wealthy and big oil and big corporations that ship jobs overseas at the expense of elderly and their Medicare and their Medicaid and the disabled and children. The Republican budget resolution does not reflect the values of Americans, and I urge my colleagues to reject it soundly. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
I yield myself 1 minute. Unshared prosperity. Spending money on tax cuts. Mr. Chairman, the presumption behind that is that all the money out there made in America is the government's. And then the government decides who they spend it back to. We do have different philosophies. The money that people make is their money. And then the question is, how much of it does the government take? The money made in America by individuals, by businesses, is their money. It's not the government's money. So we don't spend money on tax cuts. By the way, Mr. Chairman, we're not even cutting taxes in this bill. We're just not raising them. So the new definition of cutting taxes, apparently, is if you're against raising taxes, you're cutting them. I don't even know where to start with this, but I'm going to start by yielding 2 minutes to the gentleman from Kansas, a member of the Budget Committee, Mr. Huelskamp.
Gentleman from Kansas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We clearly have a choice here in Washington. We can maintain the same old status quo, which favors more spending, more taxes, and more Washington control, or the real American choice, making good on promises made to voters last year by cutting spending and creating jobs. The choice is ours. The opportunity is now. The path to prosperity offers a long overdue fix to Medicaid. There are many problems with the program, and the costs are out of control, hemorrhaging the budgets of state after state in our federal government. Clearly, the answer is not more money. Instead, the solution is spending money more wisely and more efficiently. Governors from all across America have expressed their desires for more flexibility with Medicaid, and this budget offers exactly that. In converting federal spending on Medicaid to block grants, folks closest to the American people, governors, legislators, and local officials, not some bureaucrats sitting in Washington, will make decisions best for their citizens and design programs that work best for their states and for their people. They will have the freedom to adapt Medicaid to their own state's unique needs and priorities. Also, because this budget defunds Obamacare, we are preventing the federal government from imposing another mandate on the states. Obamacare forces states to expand Medicaid eligibility, but leaves it up to them how they will pay for it. By supporting this budget, we put a stop to this intrusion to the federal government and make Medicaid better for those who truly need it. This path to prosperity will increase the Medicaid budget and provide much-needed regulatory reform for the 50 states of this great union. Only those committed to the status quo including many of the colleagues across the aisle, can make the ridiculous claim that somehow spending more taxpayer money and pushing more Washington red tape is somehow a solution. By lifting the heavy hand of Washington from Medicaid, we make this program more effective and more efficient for the states to manage these programs and provide compassionate care for the Americans who truly deserve assistance. With that, I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hardworking American people have been paying their Medicare payroll taxes, day in, day out, month in, month out. The choice we have here is whether we're going to make good on that Medicare guarantee or whether we're going to say to the folks at the very top, we just can't take you back to the tax rates that were in place during the Clinton administration. Why would we say that to people who have been putting their payroll taxes in the Medicare? Why would we say we're going to end the Medicare guarantee? With that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
I'm like the gentleman from Wisconsin who just doesn't know what to do and seems to be confused on his side of the aisle as to what his budget is all about. I will say that I am getting unconfused because his budget is a destruction of the fabric and the way of life of all Americans. You want to know what the Republican budget does? It cuts food assistance for struggling families. It takes away affordable health care coverage for working families. And, of course, it dismantles the health care safety net. But also, it deals with education of our children. And as the co-chair and founder of the Congressional Children's Caucus, let me show you what happens when we don't educate our children. We can see the numbers of individuals who are unemployed, who have not had a high school degree. Our friends in the Republican budget are going to cut education, and they're going to wind up with increasing unemployment because you can see that less of our Americans are being able to go to college, and therefore without college, without a high school education, we just undermine a growing child's opportunity. Let me tell you what else we do. We go from children to their grandparents. And I remember staying on this floor of the House trying to prevent the donut hole from coming about. But Republicans, again, established a donut hole that millions of seniors have fallen through. In fact, the Republican budget causes seniors to pay some $12,000 on their Medicare. Listen to me clearly, seniors. You will be paying an extra $12,000 with the Republican budget plan. And, of course, we will open up the donut hole again, the very donut hole that has been taken care of by the Affordable Care Act. On the other hand, the Democratic budget balances the budget. And, of course, it recognizes the value of a shared sacrifice. I just visited Texas soldiers, National Guard. They understand about shared sacrifice. They support each other. But this is a suicidal budget. It has no shared sacrifice, and all of the cuts come from the most vulnerable. The Republican plan is all about turning back the clock and throwing the poor people over the bridge. That's what it's all about. It's a disgrace. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Oklahoma, gentleman of the Budget Committee, Mr. Langford.
Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized for 2 minutes, without objection.
It's just a little surreal to walk in the chamber and be able to hear that somehow Republicans are interested in throwing old people off the bridge, and that somehow old people, that we're focused on all these things, that we hate those in poverty, and we hate our own parents, and we hate all these other things. And in reality, as a newcomer walking into this body, I walk into a chamber saying, we came to get things done. And the driving factor that I walked in this chamber with is the reality that we have $14 trillion in debt. Now, that's hard to be able to wrap your head around, $14 trillion in debt. So the way that I try to wrap my head around it is with an old illustration for me personally. I remember being 9 years old watching the Voyager spacecraft take off and thinking it will take forever for the Voyager spacecraft to get all the way out to Saturn and to Jupiter. It would take all of 10 years to get out there. But I remember when those pictures were done and they were sent back and how significant they were. Now, just imagine this. In 1977, when the Voyager 1 spacecraft took off, if it started dropping $1 a mile from the time it took off, how long would it take it to drop $14 trillion? Now remember, the Voyager spacecraft has been out there 34 years, still operating. It has left the solar system now. It is past Pluto, headed out of the solar system. If it dropped $1 a mile since the time it took off, it will drop $14 trillion 41,801 years from now. A spacecraft that's already flown out of our solar system will have to continue flying at the same speed another 41,801 years from now. It is surreal for us to stand here and to be able to not take seriously the amount of spending that we do and how out of control we really are. This is not just a tax problem. This is a long-term issue that's not Republican and Democrat. We have both spent too much money, but it is time for us to pull our own budget back and to take this serious. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Wisconsin reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I, too, remember the Voyager spacecraft and also the Apollo program and moon launch. Great examples of things that individuals and corporations can't do by themselves. Things that we have to do by coming together as a people behind a purpose. And the Republican budget, if you look at the long-term forecast provided by CBO, essentially says when you project out here, given the assumptions that they were given, you eliminate all of the federal government except defense, and even defense is at a smaller share of GDP when you get out there than it is today. That is the kind of result that you get by the kind. I'd be happy to.
I wish it were so. Joking on that, but it's because GDP growth grows at a faster pace than government. So it's not as if government goes away. Government keeps spending. Government keeps defense and education. It's just that the economy outgrows the size of government, and we're on a virtuous path.
If I could,
more
Mr.
prosperity,
Chairman,
more opportunity.
Reclaiming my time. Look, the issue here is what is the appropriate role and size of government. And there's no doubt that we have to take what we think should be a balanced approach that involves both cuts and, as the Fiscal Commission, the bipartisan Fiscal Commission says, you got to deal with the revenue piece if you're going to deal with this problem in a realistic way. With that, I yield 1 minute, 2 minutes to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Hollen. I appreciate it. Let me commend you for the excellent leadership that you are providing in this fight. Ladies and gentlemen of the Congress, this is America. This is the greatest country in the world. And we are great because we have certain values. Paramount among those values is the sense of fairness. Now, let me tell you what the flaw is in the Republican budget. The flaw in the Republican budget is it is not fair. Whatever polls we read, wherever we look, the American people are beginning to see it. How can you justify cutting seniors, cutting young people, cutting the low income, cutting the middle class, while at the same time giving over $1 trillion to billionaires and millionaires in this country? That is the disconnect, Mr. Speaker. I don't care which side you're on or where you are in this country. The American people know that we, yes, must bring down our deficit and cut this debt. It has become a national security issue. For 8 years since I've been in Congress, I have been arguing for that, standing up for paying down our debt. During the years of the Bush administration, which, let's tell the truth, was a primary cause of us being in the position that we're in now, to have 3 wars going at the same time. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I'm just saying that the point we have to make is it's not fair to cut this budget on the backs of the poor, the elderly, and the young, while at the same time giving billionaires over $1 trillion.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Chairman, I'll give myself a minute to simply say again, just to clear for the record, if you're a person who is 55 years of age or older, there's no change in Medicare for you. The Medicare you're on or that you're organizing your life and getting ready to prepare for when you retire will be there as it is forever for your life under our proposal. Contrary to the status quo, Medicare goes bankrupt in 9 years. Status quo, the President has a new board called the Independent Payment Advisory Board. 15 people he appoints, they ration Medicare. They put price controls in Medicare. They decide what Medicare can do or what it can't do. Congress is out of the loop. Unelected bureaucrats by the President, his people, they do it. And the President just yesterday said, you know what? Go cut more. Go get more savings. That's the status quo. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from North Carolina, Ms. Fox.
Gentlelady from North Carolina is